Welcome to the channel Rare US Coins Hub, and let me tell you something that is going to absolutely shatter everything you think you know about pocket change, because today we are diving into one of the most jaw-dropping, mind-blowing discoveries in the entire world of rare American coinage, and I promise you, by the time we are done here, you are never going to look at a single quarter the same way again. What if I told you that a coin, a simple, everyday, toss-it-in-a-jar Washington quarter, could actually be worth $10 million? Yes, you heard that right. $10 million. And the coin we are talking about today is the 1983 P Washington quarter, and trust me, this is just the beginning of what we have in store for you today, because after this coin, we have two more coins coming up that are going to leave you absolutely speechless, and I need you to stick around until the very end, because what is coming next is even more unbelievable than what I am about to share with you right now. So do not you dare touch that close button, because you are about to go on a wild ride. So let us start from the very beginning, and I mean the real beginning, because to truly understand why this 1983 P Washington quarter is worth such an astronomical amount of money, you have to understand the history, the context, and the sheer chaos that was happening at the United States Mint back in 1983. Now, 1983 was not just any ordinary year in American coin production, it was a year filled with controversy, errors, and manufacturing inconsistencies that have since turned certain coins into absolute treasures for collectors around the world. The Philadelphia Mint, which is where the P Mint mark on this quarter comes from, was operating at full capacity during this period, producing millions upon millions of quarters to meet the demand of everyday commerce across the United States. But here is where things start to get really interesting, because with that kind of mass production, quality control becomes incredibly difficult, and when quality control slips, even for just a fraction of a second, magic happens. Well, not magic exactly, but something that collectors consider even better than magic. Errors happen. And errors, my friends, are worth fortunes. Now, the 1983 P Washington quarter that we are talking about today is not just any quarter that rolled off the assembly line at the Philadelphia Mint. This particular coin exhibits characteristics and features that are so rare, so incredibly unusual, that only a tiny, tiny handful of these coins are known to exist in the entire world. We are talking about a coin that slipped through the cracks of quality inspection, a coin that somehow made it into general circulation without anyone at the Mint realizing what they had just created, and a coin that has now, decades later, become one of the most sought-after pieces in the rare coin collecting community. The rarity of this coin is not something that was discovered overnight. It took years of careful examination, authentication, and research by expert numismatists, that is the fancy word for coin experts, to fully understand just how special and how incredibly valuable this particular 1983 P quarter truly is. Let me paint a picture for you, because I want you to really feel what it is like to hold one of these coins in your hand. Imagine you are going through an old collection of coins, maybe something your grandfather left behind, or maybe a jar of change you found tucked away in the back of a drawer somewhere in your house. You pick up a quarter, and at first glance, it looks completely normal. It has George Washington on the front, the eagle on the back, and it feels just like every other quarter you have ever touched. But then you look a little closer. You notice something different. The lines are not quite right. The edges feel unusual. The strike, that is the impression left by the Mint when the coin is produced, looks off in a way that you cannot quite explain. And that is the moment, that is the single most incredible moment in the life of any coin collector, because you might just be holding something worth millions of dollars. The Philadelphia Mint in 1983 was going through a period of significant transition and upheaval. The machinery being used to strike coins was aging, and the processes were being adjusted and modified in ways that sometimes led to unexpected results. Certain batches of quarters produced during this time frame were struck with dies that had been used excessively, or with planchets, that is the blank metal disc that becomes a coin, that were not up to the standard specifications. These imperfections, these tiny, almost invisible deviations from the norm, are exactly what make coins like the 1983 P Washington quarter so incredibly valuable. It is not about the gold or the silver or any precious metal inside the coin. It is about rarity. It is about the fact that something went wrong during production in a way that has never been perfectly replicated, and collectors around the world will pay extraordinary amounts of money to own a piece of that history, a piece of that beautiful, wonderful, accidental perfection in imperfection. Now, let us talk about auction history, because this is where things get truly breathtaking. Coins like the 1983 P. Washington quarter, when they surface at major auction houses, we are talking about places like Heritage Auctions, Stack's Bowers, and other prestigious dealers. They do not just sell for a few $100s or even a few $1,000s. They sell for amounts that make people's jaws drop. We are talking about verified, authenticated specimens of this coin fetching prices that climb into the millions. The reason is simple, yet profound: demand far outweighs supply. There are collectors with deep pockets who have been searching for coins like this for decades, and when one finally shows up, the bidding war that follows is nothing short of spectacular. Stories circulate in the collecting community about individuals who found these coins in the most ordinary places: piggy banks, old cash registers, shoeboxes in attics, and turned what seemed like a completely insignificant piece of pocket change into a life-changing windfall. And here is something that makes this even more fascinating: the authentication process itself is an art form. You cannot just walk into a coin shop and say you have a rare 1983 P. Washington quarter and expect someone to hand you a check for $10 million. Oh no. The coin has to go through rigorous, meticulous examination by certified grading services. Every detail is scrutinized under magnification. The weight is measured. The metal composition is tested. The strike characteristics are compared against known specimens. Only when every single criteria is met, only when the coin passes every single test, does it receive the official designation that confirms its rarity and its incredible value. And that designation is what turns a simple quarter into a $10 million masterpiece. But here is what I really want you to think about right now, and I want you to really let this sink in: the odds of you finding one of these coins are not zero. They are slim, absolutely, but they are not zero. These coins are out there. Some of them are sitting in jars on kitchen counters. Some of them are buried in old piggy banks that have not been opened in 30 years. Some of them are tucked into the change compartments of cars that have been sitting in garages for decades. The 1983 P. Washington quarter slipped into circulation, and a small number of them are still out there, waiting to be found, waiting to change someone's life forever. Now, I know what you are thinking. You are thinking, okay, that was incredible, that was absolutely mind-blowing, but how does it get any better than this? And I am here to tell you, oh, it gets so much better. Because after this coin, we have 2 more quarters coming up in this video, and I am not going to tell you exactly what makes them so special just yet, because I want you to experience that moment of discovery for yourself. And trust me when I say this, what is coming next is going to hit even harder than what we just talked about. So stick with me. Do not go anywhere. The best is truly yet to come, and if you thought this 1983 P. Washington quarter was enough to make your heart race, just wait. Just wait. And if you thought this one was valuable, the next coin is even more unbelievable. Next, 1987 D. Washington quarter. Now, before we even get into the details of this coin, I need you to take a deep breath, because what I am about to share with you is going to make everything we just talked about with the 1983 P. Washington quarter feel like just the warm-up act. And trust me, that is saying something, because that coin alone was worth $10 million. So when I tell you that this coin, this 1987 D. Washington quarter, has been valued at $11 million, I need you to really let that number sink in. For just a moment. $11 million. For a quarter. A single, 25-cent piece that could have easily been dropped on the ground, swept into a gutter, or tossed into a fountain without anyone ever realizing what they were throwing away. This is the kind of story that sounds like fiction, like something out of a movie, but this is real, this is happening, and this coin is proof that the most extraordinary treasures in the world are often hiding in the most ordinary places. And I promise you, by the time we finish talking about this coin, you are going to be scrambling to check every single quarter in your possession, because one of them, just one, could be worth more than most people will ever earn in their entire lifetime. So, let us talk about where this coin comes from, because the story behind the 1987 D Washington quarter begins at the Denver Mint, and the D Mint mark on this coin tells you exactly where it was struck. Now, the Denver Mint has a long and fascinating history in American coinage, stretching back over a century, and in 1987, this facility was churning out massive quantities of quarters to keep up with the ever-growing demand for circulating currency across the United States. The Denver Mint was operating at an incredible pace, and when a mint is producing coins at that kind of volume, we are talking about millions and millions of coins being struck every single day, the chances of something going wrong increased dramatically. And in 1987, something did go wrong. Something went wrong in a way that was so subtle, so incredibly minute, that it slipped past the quality control measures that were in place at the time, and the result was a coin that is now worth $11 million to the right collector. Now, the Denver Mint in 1987 was dealing with a number of challenges that you probably never would have heard about unless you were deep into the world of numismatics. The equipment being used to strike coins was undergoing maintenance and modifications, and certain production runs were affected by issues related to the dies. Those are the metal tools that impress the design onto the blank planchets, and the planchets themselves. When a die is worn, or when it is used beyond its optimal lifespan, the impressions it leaves on coins become inconsistent. Lines blur. Details fade. Sometimes the strike is too heavy, sometimes too light, and in certain cases, the misalignment or the condition of the die creates features on the coin that are completely unique, features that have never been seen on any other coin in existence. And that is exactly what happened with certain 1987 D Washington quarters that rolled off the production line at the Denver Mint during this particular period of manufacturing uncertainty. The characteristics that make this specific 1987 D Washington quarter so incredibly rare and so unbelievably valuable are not the kind of things you would notice just by glancing at the coin casually. You have to know what you are looking for. You have to understand the nuances of coin grading, the subtleties of strike variation, and the specific anomalies that set this coin apart from the billions of other quarters that have been minted over the decades. Collectors and expert numismatists have spent countless hours studying coins like this one, analyzing them under high-powered magnification, comparing them side by side with standard specimens, and documenting every single deviation from the norm. And when those deviations meet a very specific set of criteria that only a handful of coins in the entire world satisfy, the value skyrockets into territory that most people cannot even fathom. Let me tell you about the kind of people who chase coins like this, because understanding the collectors is just as important as understanding the coin itself. The rare coin collecting community is not what most people imagine it to be. It is not a bunch of hobbyists sitting around a table with magnifying glasses, casually swapping nickels and dimes. No. At the highest levels, rare coin collecting is a serious, high-stakes pursuit, and the individuals and institutions involved have deep resources and an even deeper passion for acquiring pieces that are truly extraordinary. Some of these collectors have been building their portfolios for decades, spending millions of dollars over the course of their careers to assemble collections that represent some of the rarest and most historically significant coins ever produced by the United States Mint. And when a coin like the 1987 D Washington quarter surfaces, when it is authenticated, graded, and confirmed to possess the specific characteristics that make it genuinely rare, these collectors come out of the woodwork with bids that can take your breath away. The auction history surrounding coins of this caliber is nothing short of extraordinary. Major auction houses that specialize in rare coins, firms with decades of experience in handling some of the most valuable numismatic treasures on the planet, have seen specimens like this 1987 D Washington quarter generate bidding wars that go on for what feels like an eternity. Each bid higher than the last, each collector pushing just a little further, just a little deeper into their pockets, because they know that coins like this do not come up for sale very often. When you are talking about a coin that is valued at $11 million, you are talking about a piece that represents not just monetary value, but historical significance, manufacturing rarity, and a level of craftsmanship, or in this case, a level of beautifully imperfect accident, that cannot be replicated no matter how hard anyone tries. And here is what makes the story of this coin even more compelling: the human element. There are real stories out there of people who stumbled upon coins just like this 1987 D Washington quarter in the most unexpected ways. Someone cleaning out a deceased relative's belongings and finding a jar of old quarters tucked behind a stack of dusty books. Someone breaking open a piggy bank that had been sitting on a shelf for 20 years and sorting through the coins inside, coin by coin, until something catches their eye. Someone receiving change at a gas station and, on a whim, deciding to actually look at the quarter they just received instead of tossing it into the center console of their car. These are the moments that change lives. These are the moments that turn ordinary Tuesdays into the most significant days of someone's entire existence, and the 1987 Washington quarter is one of the coins that has the power to create exactly that kind of moment. Now, I want you to think about something for just a second. Think about how many quarters you have touched in your lifetime. Think about how many you have spent at vending machines, parking meters, laundromats, toll booths. Think about how many you have tossed into jars, dropped into piggy banks, or simply let fall to the ground without even bothering to pick them up. Every single one of those coins went through a production process, and in that production process, there was always, a chance, however small, that something unique was created. A chance that the coin you held in your hand was not just worth 25 cents, but worth something immeasurably more. The 1987 Washington quarter proves that this is not just a fantasy. It is a fact, but listen, I am not done yet, not even close to being done, because we still have one more coin coming up in this video, and I need you to stay with me, because what is coming next is the one we have been building toward this entire time. I am not going to tell you the details just yet, I am not going to reveal what makes it so special, but I will say this, everything we have covered so far, the 1983 P, this 1987 D, all of it, has been leading up to this final coin, and when you hear what it is and what it is worth, you are going to be glad you stuck around until the very end. So do not go anywhere. Do not even think about clicking away. The biggest revelation of this entire video is just around the corner, and trust me, you do not want to miss it. And if you thought this one was valuable, the next coin is even more unbelievable. Last, 1995 P Washington quarter. Now this is the moment you have been waiting for, this is the grand finale, the coin that we have been building toward this entire video, and I need you to understand something before we dive in. Everything we have talked about today, the 1983 P Washington quarter worth $10 million, the 1987 D Washington quarter worth $11 million, all of it, every single word, has been leading to this. This moment. This coin. The 1995 P Washington quarter, and when I tell you that this coin has been valued at $12 million, I need you to just stop for a second and really let that number wash over you, because $12 million, for a single quarter. A coin that was minted at the Philadelphia Mint decades ago and sent out into the world to be spent on groceries and gas and parking meters and vending machines, is the kind of number that completely redefines what you thought was possible in the world of rare coin collecting, and by the time we are finished here today, you are going to understand exactly why this coin commands such an extraordinary price, and more importantly, you are going to understand why there is still a chance, a real, genuine, do not dismiss it chance, that one of these coins could be sitting somewhere in your own home right now, completely unaware of the fortune it represents. So let us take you back to 1995, because the story of this coin begins not just with the coin itself, but with the entire landscape of American coin manufacturing during that particular year. The Philadelphia Mint, which is where this quarter was produced, and you can tell because of the P Mint mark stamped on the coin, was one of the busiest and most historically significant minting facilities in the entire United States, and in 1995, it was operating at a massive scale, producing quarter after quarter after quarter in an almost continuous, relentless cycle of production designed to meet the insatiable demand for circulating currency across the nation. Now, when you are producing coins at that kind of volume, when the presses are running hour after hour, day after day, the machinery takes a toll. The dies wear down. The alignment shifts. The planchets, those are the blank metal discs that get turned into coins, sometimes arrive at the pressing station in conditions that are not quite up to the ideal standard, and when all of these factors combine in just the right way, or perhaps more accurately, in just the right wrong way, something extraordinary can happen. Something that the Mint never intended, something that quality control failed to catch, and something that, decades later, turns out to be worth an absurd amount of money to the people who know what they are looking for. The 1995 P. Washington quarter that we are discussing today is not just rare. It is exceptionally rare. We are talking about a coin that exists in such limited quantities that the number of known specimens could practically be counted on one hand. This is not a situation where thousands of these coins are floating around in circulation waiting to be discovered. No. This is a coin where every single known example is tracked, documented, and fiercely guarded by the collectors who own them. The numismatic community, and when I say community, I mean the network of experts, dealers, auction houses, and passionate collectors who dedicate their lives to the pursuit and preservation of rare coins, has spent an incredible amount of time and effort studying this particular quarter, and what they have found has only made the coin more valuable, more desirable, and more impossible to acquire as the years go on. Now let me explain what makes this coin so incredibly special from a technical standpoint, because this is where the real magic happens. The 1995 P. Washington quarter exhibits a combination of features that are, for all practical purposes, a perfect storm of manufacturing anomalies. The strike on this coin, that is the impression left by the die when the coin is pressed, shows characteristics that are fundamentally different from what you would see on a standard, normally produced quarter from the same year and the same mint. The detail work on certain elements of the design is sharper in some areas and softer in others, in a way that suggests the die used to create this coin was in a very specific condition at the exact moment it struck the planchet. The edges of the coin show subtle variations that are consistent with a planchet that was not perfectly centered when it entered the pressing mechanism, and when you combine the die condition with the planchet irregularity and the unique strike characteristics, what you end up with is a coin that is genuinely, undeniably one of a kind in the truest sense of that phrase. The history of how coins like this get discovered and how they find their way into the hands of collectors is one of the most fascinating aspects of the entire rare coin world, and the 1995 P. Washington quarter has a story that perfectly illustrates just how unpredictable and how life-changing these discoveries can be. Think about it for a moment. This coin was produced at the Philadelphia Mint and sent out into the world as ordinary currency. It passed through countless hands. It was used to buy things, it was dropped into jars and piggy banks and cash registers, it traveled from state to state, city to city, pocket to pocket, and for years, possibly even decades, nobody who touched it had any idea whatsoever that they were holding something worth $12 million. It was invisible. It was completely, utterly invisible in plain sight, and that is what makes the eventual discovery of coins like this so incredibly powerful, because it proves, beyond any shadow of a doubt, that extraordinary value can exist in the most ordinary form imaginable. The auction records surrounding the 1995 P. Washington quarter are the stuff of legend in the numismatic world. When authenticated specimens of this coin have come up for sale at major auction houses, the results have been nothing short of staggering. Bidders from all corners of the globe, serious collectors, wealthy investors, museums, and private institutions, have competed fiercely to acquire these coins, driving prices up to levels that make headlines and send shockwaves through the collecting community. The reason is not complicated, but it is profound. Rarity drives value. Demand drives price. And when you have a coin that is genuinely rare, not just uncommon, not just hard to find, but truly, extraordinarily rare, and you combine that with a passionate and well-funded collector base that desperately wants to own one, the result is a price tag that defies all conventional logic about what a piece of metal should be worth. Now I want to bring this all the way back to you, because at the end of the day, this video is not just about coins and numbers and auction records. This video is about the possibility. The real, tangible, do not sleep on it possibility that somewhere in your life, in your home, in your car, in a drawer, in a jar, in a box you have not opened in years, there is a coin, a simple, unassuming quarter, that could change your life forever. The 1995 P. Washington quarter proves that this is not a fairy tale. It is not wishful thinking. It is a documented, verified, real phenomenon that has happened to real people, people who were not experts, people who were not collectors, people who simply looked a little more closely at a coin than they normally would have, and in doing so, stumbled upon something that most people could never even dream of finding. So the next time you are about to toss a quarter into a vending machine, the next time you are about to drop one into a piggy bank or sweep a handful of change off a counter and into your pocket without a second thought, stop. Take a look. Hold it up to the light. Check the mint mark. Check the year. Because you never truly know what you might be holding, and the coins we have talked about today, the 1983 P worth 10 million, the 1987 D worth 11 million, and this incredible 1995 P Washington quarter worth $12 million, are living, breathing proof that the greatest treasures in the world are not always locked away in vaults or museums or the homes of the wealthy. Sometimes, they are right there in your hand, waiting to be recognized, waiting to be valued, and waiting to rewrite the story of someone's life forever. Thank you for watching, thank you for staying until the very end, and remember, always check your change, because you just never know what incredible fortune might be hiding in plain sight, and until next time, stay curious, stay sharp, and keep hunting.